And since heart disease is the #1 cause of death, like many of the diseases we'll talk about this semester, your risk of these goes up quite dramatically as you get older. So older adults are more likely to have heart disease, diabetes, obesity. People tend to not live long, but obesity definitely is going to increase your heart disease risk. We'll talk more about that in this class and also in XPhys 2. Hypercholesterolemia, so high cholesterol, also known as dyslipidemia. So poor cholesterol levels, we'll get into more detail about that. Hypertension, high blood pressure. High blood pressure really increases the risk of heart disease. But note that poor physical activity is a very large component of risk. So a lot of these things, if you look at socioeconomic status and non-Caucasian race, some of these you cannot change. So you cannot change your race, you can't change your age. Your socioeconomic status is challenging to change, but it is changeable. But a lot of these other risk factors can be changed, and probably one of the most important ones we have to deal with is physical activity. Role of physical activity in health. Know these things. Look at all of these for how much physical activity plays a role in health and all these functions. So this is why, if it was available in a pill, it would be a wonder drug. So blood pressure, body composition, blood properties, anxiety, depression, inflammation. We'll go into more details about that. So if you look at the slide from the ACSM guidelines, this is where they look at the evidence base for exercise. So inverse dose response. So what that means is the more you have, it lowers your risk. So, do we really know an exact number? Not really for a lot of these, but we generally know the more exercise you do, the healthier you're going to be. But it doesn't take a whole lot of exercise for people to become healthier. So if you look at all-cause mortality, risk of death, cardiovascular health, weight control, pretty much that's the only thing where there really aren't a whole lot of data with weight maintenance, and as well as at the very bottom of the list, anxiety and depression. But there is very good research evidence for exercise affecting every single one of these variables listed in the table. So that's great news for us. Where there are insufficient data, that just means more research needs to be done. So more opportunities for us as exercise professionals to work on that area. And then if you look at the very last column of the table, the strength of the evidence. So if you look at the table at the very bottom, the answer key at the bottom of the table, strength, strong, consistent across lots of studies and populations. So across different ages, races, ethnicities, we're going to see strong evidence. So where you see, it's weaker, we maybe don't have, enough consistent evidence, and we may not have data across different populations. So that's a big factor too. Many research studies tend to be higher educated people with good health insurance, people with higher socioeconomic status, maybe not all that diverse. So that's a big issue that we have when we're evaluating the research. But overall, there is a pretty good evidence for dose response with exercise. So the more you do, the better your health, and that the strength of evidence is at the very least moderate for most of these variables. So yes, this is something to have, committed to your head. We'll talk about this in class, resistance training health benefits. So just like, the slide before really talked about physical activity, more so aerobic activity, but we're going to talk about in class what are some of these resistance training health benefits.